Greetings, my fellow freedom-loving silent thinkers. LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy Mango, South Florida. And today's date is Thursday, November 30th, 2017. Ooh, exciting and fun, and the year is almost done. Wow. Yeah, it's a real interesting year so far, my friends. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Like I said about the ugly and the bad, they're being stripped naked. Stuff is being exposed, a lot of cloak and daggering going on in the geopolitical world. I'm in the new river of Fort Lauderdale. Nice, mild, windy. I dig it. I really do. It's the best time of the year for down here. Everyone else is freezing their crotch off. Not yet, but it's getting there. And I'm still in my shorts and my shirt, enjoying the view. Yeah, so things are okay. Just have a few things on my mind. How to get that out, relax a little bit, chill. So, enough with the small talk. Let's just check this out here, my friends. Everyone's having this big thing about sexual misconduct, sexual harassment, all these folks, even the ones I can't stand, are all being the finger pointing. You these grabbed my crotch and did this and did that 32 years ago, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30, 20. Even people like Charlie Rose got knocked off, even though I can't stand the guy, see a far stooge that he is. But the whole thing is this, like I said before, you better have merit. Have concrete facts. Because you may have a vagina doesn't mean you got the world wrapped around your finger. Even the men are like that too. So I'm not going to be generally biased. But in the years I've been around in the entertainment industry, bouncing and stage work and all that, I see these areas in those venues. And they try to use that on people. Even the ones on the end I like. I let them know. I seen what happened. Don't lie to me, don't lie to me, babe. Don't worry, you're not my type. Because right now, if you look at someone as attractive, they may call that sexual misconduct. Hey, we all have human instincts. You should hear some of the women when they talk. You'd be surprised. There's not a bunch of Mother Teresa's out there either. But there's some great folks out there in all walks of life as well. So, I'll be talking on a couple topics on this. What's going on in Washington, D.C., Hollywood, and all that. Don't get me wrong, I can't stand those particular facilities, with all due respect. So, I have taken the initiative. I want to narrate a couple of articles pertaining to this matter. And this one here came from the New American. I haven't did anything for them in a while. And it's entitled, "It's Okay If Innocent Men Are Destroyed for Sexual Misconduct," by Raven Clabo. And we'll just, as it reads here, it came out yesterday. As it reads here, as allegations of sexual harassment and assault continue to pervade the news, some have raised concerns that the prevalence of sexual misconduct cases may prompt a witch hunt in which innocent men are accused, or men are accused of misconduct for actions that most would consider innocent or harmless. Sadly, not everyone believes that these cases should be approached with caution or with the presumption of innocence until the accused are proven guilty. Emily Liddon, a columnist for Teen Vogue, is one such person. She went so far as to state that she had no problem with the fact that some innocent men may have become casualties in the fight to prevent sexual misconduct. Well, Emily, that's why I don't read these magazines. Proves one thing, that quote, you suck at what you do. And I will continue on here. And to hell with your post-fact world, bizarro world. What they call the bizarro syndrome, yeah? This is continue on here. In a series of tweets published last week, Linden let her controversial and highly un-American perspective be known. Here's an unpopular opinion. I am actually not all concerned about innocent men losing their jobs over false sexual assault harassment allegations she began. She continued, first, false allegations are very rarely happen, so even if it bring up borders on a derailment tactic, it is a microscopic risk in comparison to the issue at hand. Worldwide systemic oppression or half the population. And more importantly, the benefit of all of us getting finally to tell the truth, the impact on victims far outweigh the loss of any one man's reputation, she opted. She concluded, sorry if some innocent men's reputations have to take a hit in the process of undoing the bureaucracy. That is the price I am absolutely willing to pay. It proves one thing, you're weak and pathetic without any merit. If it was the other way around, if this person's a rape victim, you wear these certain clothes. How can you dress so sexy? You know you're getting anything. Same scenario, different package. See, this woman, Emily, can't even think. Of course, she believes the world should wrap around her finger, and all the women out there that believe, don't sexual harass. No, if you look at me funny, if you say hello, that's sexual harassment. It's getting so watered down, folks. It's blasphemous. This is what the brave new world wants. So, we'll continue on here. Of course, it will be it will not be her paying the price, but innocent men whom she has so callously designated the necessary martyrs of the SJW's agenda. Let's face it, it seems that for some, such as Linden, the efforts to root out sexual misbehaviors are less about fighting for equality and more targeting white men. If SJWs are truly concerned with misogyny and the job objectification of women, they would have targeted the hip-hop and rap culture for its treatment of women in music and videos. Linden's perspectives on the subject are wholly un-American and goes against everything for which the founding fathers stood. John Adams once noted, it is more important that innocence be protected than it is that guilt be punished. For guilt and crimes are so frequent in this world that they cannot all be punished. But if innocence itself is brought to the bar and condemned, perhaps to die, then the citizen will say, whatever I do good or whatever I do evil is immaterial, for innocence itself is no protection. And if such an idea as that were to take hold in the mind of the citizen, that would be the end of security whatsoever. He's absolutely correct. The protection of innocence is deeply ingrained in the U.S. Constitution. The Fifth Amendment protects an individual's right to due process of law, which was further enshrined under the 14th Amendment. The Fourth Amendment protects Americans from illegal searches and seizures, and the Sixth Amendment guarantees rights that ensure criminal prosecutions are fair and legitimate. Fortunately, the founders disagree with the notion of the greater good and recognize it is as a tool to be used to bring about totalitarianism, and instead establish a republic that protected individual liberties. Sadly, this is a system that SJWs wish to dismantle. Interestingly enough, the backlash against Linden was swift, and not just from conservatives and libertarians. You don't care that innocent men of color are disproportionately accused in colleges and punished without due process in ways that ruin their lives? Your feminism is comfortable in blatant race scapegoating, tweeted one user. I think that's awesome. I know she got the whole thing just blew back in her face. In fact, college campuses are one place in which false accusations are of particular concern, because school policies really protect the rights of the accused in their over-ambitious efforts to prove that they support women's rights. Even CNN's Jake Tapper tweeted, "I'm guessing you don't even get a good grade for your seventh grade book report on To Kill a Mockingbird." Another user note that Lyndon's views pose a dangerous threat to her sons. "I pray that your unpopular opinion remains just that, your opinion, and not something that unjustly hurts my sons." As for Lyndon's claim that false allegations are rare, the U.S. Department of Justice's Office of Violence Against Women has found that the rate of false reporting is somewhere between 2 and 10%. First, is that a wide range, and second, that still means that 2 to 10% are falsely accused of crime from which they may never recover. Take, for example, 3 lacrosse players at Duke University, North Carolina, who were falsely accused of rape by a black stripper that the boys had hired to perform at a party. The boys were suspended from school, and one lost a Wall Street job offer as a result of the indictment. While they were eventually exonerated, they note that they are continually battling the stigma of being accused of rape. Furthermore, this country has yet to come to a decision on what can be classified as sexual harassment and misconduct. A recent poll from YouGov reveals that 1 out of 3 young adults now consider it sexual harassment if a man who is not a woman's romantic partner compliments her looks. 1 out of 4 young adults agree it is sexual harassment if a man offers to buy a woman a drink. About half of those polled also said it was sexual harassment for a man to look at a woman's breast. If the SJWs have their way, one might wonder if there will be any more procreation, because men will be terrified to get anywhere near a woman in fear that they will be unfairly accused of misconduct. Like I said, my friends, they're trying to train us to accept the brave new world. Instead of being beautiful human beings, wants to be numbers. What's going to be next? All have shaved head, all wear these big, bulky clothes, Boilermakers everywhere we go. Baggy, and walk around like our heads going down, going to the factory. Remember Metropolis, 1984, etc.? These are just examples, my friends. Very dangerous times. If I see a woman, I find a woman attractive, I say hello to them, doesn't mean I'm going to have sex. No way. Of course, you got clowns out there from both sides. I'm not going to argue about that at all. But the truth of the matter is, they want you to live. Hearsay is legit and it's proven fact. That's why John Adams warned us about these things. And that's what they did before the Founding Fathers wrote that in the Bill of Rights. For all you folks that believe, if I say hello, if I look at you in an honorable way, call that sexual harassment, you just been duped, dumbed down, punked. Vice versa. You have to cross the board. One of the areas you gotta look at, my friends, if this happens and you've been acquitted, sue their behinds under Title 42, U.S. Code Section 1983, that your rights have been violated. You know what? If they love dishing out, if they hate receiving, then it is what they are, a bunch of cowards. So, even some of the clowns that are in there, I'm not crazy about. Don't get me wrong, but you have to prove. It has to be proof, beyond a reasonable doubt, that they're guilty. Innocent to proven guilty. That's it. That's why, my friends, don't follow the hype. Don't get too distracted. Observe, pay attention, don't fully manifest. Trust me, you'll feel a lot better when you do. So, we're going to go right here on another one that came out yesterday by Michael C. Dorff. Is off the Justia verdict. Why Washington reacts more slowly to sexual misconduct allegations in Hollywood? Less than 24 hours after the news broke out that comedian Louis C.K. had exposed himself and masturbated in front of various women, HBO and FX cut ties with them. Similarly swift decisions were made regarding Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, Charlie Rose, and others in Hollywood and the media. Meanwhile, however, Roy Moore may yet win in a Senate seat in the upcoming Alabama special election. Al Franken has called for and will be subject to a potentially lengthy ethics investigation, and no action at all appears to be occurring with respect to Donald Trump, despite credible allegations by 13 women of sexual misconduct. What accounts for a relatively swift purge of offenders from Hollywood and the media more generally, including NPR and the New York Times, but the slow to non-existent action in Washington? Several factors may be at work, but as I shall explain, the interaction of partisan polarization with relatively weak political parties appears to be the most potent. Non-ideological factors. It goes without saying that the current wave of revelations, including men from many walks of life and with a variety of points of view, business executives, actors, directors, producers, journalists, Republicans, and Democrats, all appear to have behaved very badly over the course of many years, abusing their power to sexually harass, grope, and otherwise make life miserable for numerous women, and in some instances men they encounter. Although women are capable of abusing power to engage in sexual misconduct, the one common thread in the recent wave of revelations is that the perpetrators are men. Now, all these cases are equally served. To take two prominent illustrations from the 1990s, if one believes Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas create a hostile work environment from her, a form of sexual harassment that is serious and should have disqualified him from the seat on the Supreme Court, but only a civil violation. By contrast, if one believes Juanita Broderick, then Bill Clinton committed rape, which not only should have disqualified him from the presidency, but should have resulted in substantial prison terms. In addition, the evidence in each case differs. Thomas and Clinton denied the respective allegations of Hill and Broderick, as Trump and Moore denied respective allegations of 13 and 5 women who have so far come forward to give their accounts of how they were treated. By contrast, C.K., Spacey, and Franken have admitted at least some elements of the charges against them. Our legal system values due process, so it is appropriate that action be taken more quickly when the misconduct allegations are not contested than when they are. There also may be at least some ideological cast to the reactions. Feminists, whether men or women, are more likely to be Democrats and Republicans, and thus, through Democratic politicians, appear as likely as Republicans politicians to engage in abuses of power of a sexual nature. Democratic voters may be somewhat more likely to banish a politician for allegations for sexual misconduct than Republican voters are to banish theirs. Yet ideology seems to be a marginal consideration. While Bill Clinton was in office, Democratic voters and many independents were largely uninterested in what were facially credible allegations by Broderick and Paula Jones of very serious wrongdoing by Clinton. Meanwhile, for his part, Republican Mitch McConnell has a solid record of standing up to abusers in his own party. He was the first prominent Republican to say he believes Roy Moore's accusers, and as chair of the Senate Ethics Committee in the 1990s, did not hesitate to investigate fellow Republican Senator Bob Packwood on charges of sexual harassment, leading to Packwood's resignation. Interesting, huh? We'll keep on going here. Party politics explains a lot. Although Republicans and Democrats do not exhibit large systematic differences in how they react to allegations of sexual misconduct, there remains a difference in reaction between the media world, generally swift, and the political world, generally slow to non-existent. What explains that difference? Short answer is party politics, but the long answer is somewhat more complicated. Let's begin with elections. Nearly every jurisdiction in the United States has winners take all elections. In a such system, you don't have to vote for Republican, you effectively help elect the Democrat and vice versa. It is thus instrumentally rational for Alabama Republicans who find Roy Moore's behavior distasteful or even outraged by it to nonetheless vote for him over the Democratic candidate Doug Jones. Suppose you're an Alabaman who, for whatever reason, favors GOP priorities like tax cuts for very wealthy individuals and corporations, the destruction of the natural environment, eliminating health insurance for the working poor, strong protection for firearms owners, crime control methods at targeting African Americans, and the appointment of a more Supreme Court justice willing to overrule abortion rights and gay rights. You probably would do not want Roy Moore to be a chaperone at a junior prom at your daughter's high school, but you might well think that his misconduct is an unacceptable price to pay to preserve Republican control of the Senate. Similar logic explains why many committed Republicans who opposed Donald Trump in the 2016 primaries nevertheless voted for him in the general election. Indeed, it is easy to understand the decision of many Republicans to stick with Moore than it is to understand how the vast majority of Republicans voted for Trump. As one of 100 senators, Moore cannot do much damage by himself, whereas with Trump's finger on the bottom, the thick-skinned egomaniac's characterological defects pose a non-trivial risk of nuclear war with Korea, which presumably Republicans, no less than Democrats, wish to avoid. I'll go on further. Why not trade bad party members for good ones? The more difficult question is to answer why parties and voters stick with their own bad actors, even when they could be replaced with good ones from the same party. Why didn't other Democrats pressure Bill Clinton to resign during the Lewinsky affair, given that he would be replaced by fellow Democrat Al Gore? Why don't Democrats now pressure Al Franken to resign, given that Minnesota's Democratic governor would name a successor? At least two factors appear to be at work. First, if even parties do not differ that much systematically in how they react to allegations of sexual misconduct, there is a tendency on each side to see such allegations through a partisan lens. Democrats are more likely to believe allegations against Republicans than against Democrats and vice versa. It's like a political ping pong game, table tennis, the ping pong ball, beep, 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 That's how it is. Second, although partisanship has increased in recent years, partly due to gerrymandering and partly due to geographic sorting, the U.S. continues to have relatively weak parties, especially compared with countries with preliminary systems. Voters do not simply put the lever for the party. Our system of primary elections and largely decentralized campaigning means that senators, representatives, and presidents come to Washington with their own backing. Indeed, being perceived by voters as independent of the party establishment can be beneficial to a politician. Accordingly, even if it would be better for the Democratic Party, all things considered, for Al Franken to resign his Senate seat. The Democratic Party cannot act with some measure of cooperation from Franken. Likewise, for the president, given President Trump's historically low approval ratings, the Republican Party would likely be better off were he to resign in favor of Mike Pence. But by contrast with the parliamentary system in which the Prime Minister can be removed by a vote of no confidence, the framers of the U.S. Constitution made impeachment and removal difficult. While the 25th Amendment as a mechanism for removal of an incapacitated president, it is too difficult to invoke over the objection of a president who claims to be of sound mind. Accordingly, the answer to the question why Washington has been slower to respond to sexual misconduct revelations than Hollywood is, at least in part, the U.S. Constitution. Well, you can't argue with that, my friends. Everything has to have burden of proof. But it is funny about all these claims at a certain time. How come they didn't do it beforehand? Oh, the president, I'll do it now. Hey, that person sexually harassed me. It should have been done a long time ago, immediately. Not let it linger. Lingerholics is pretty diluted. Woo, sorry about that. But one thing for sure, just don't make it as a distraction. And I do believe it has to be due process, even impeachment process. But Hollywood, they may have contracts on that. I don't know. But it's going to be interesting. So, folks, whatever you do, observe responsibly. Alright, next one here came from Activist Post today by Brandon Turbeville. Let's see what was written. What's it originally from? It's like 20. Interesting. Maybe from 21st century here. Wire. Good stuff. But we'll just read here. Social media research shows at least 65 white helmet members supports ISIS, Nusra, and extremism. Yes, and you had their fist in the air and go, we sold our ass to the New World Order. And look at that photo right there. The ISIS flag. Al-Qaeda ISIS flag with the golden fringes around it. Can we say maritime law? So we'll see what Mr. Tuberville has to say. Ever since the Western corporate media began pimping the white helmets as the heroes of the Syrian crisis, lavishing praise upon them and even giving them film awards, from their achievements in filmmaking and the business, the alternative media has been consistently exposed to the terrorist organization for being a propaganda wing of Al Nusra Front. Since the beginning, very beginning, Vanessa Beeley has been the tip to the spear in deconstructing the myth of the white helmets, having traveled to Syria on multiple occasions, taking photos, conducting interviews, and investigating that have revealed beyond a reasonable doubt that the white helmets are indeed terrorists, and more specifically aligned with Al Nusra Front. I myself have also traveled to Syria in October 2017 and have seen clear evidence of the same after repeated videos of sectarianism. In fact, the White helmets only treat terrorists that they literally operate out of the same complexes. Fake videos, fake terrorist attacks, complicity in executions, sectarianism, and openly carrying weapons. The myth of the white helmets has been busted time and time again. A new investigative report, however, will even go further into busting the myth, since it has provided proof that at least 65 white helmet members have social media accounts that espouses loyalty to terrorist groups, claim membership, or express sympathy with terrorist organizations such as ISIS, Jabhat al-Nusra, Jund al-Qaeda, Ahrar al-Sham, and or Jaish al-Islam. The report was conducted by the Inside Syria Media Center, coordination and cooperation with Dr. Tim Anderson, an epidemic expert in economics and international politics from the University of Sydney. The report, which was published at Syria War Blog, entitled "White Helmets Exposed as Extremists," 65 Facebook profiles of their members states. The public Facebook profiles of individual White Helmets members prove that a huge percentage of them have connections to extremist groups or at least sympathize with them. Several Facebook profiles have been discovered before by others, but I discovered many more. A total of 65 White Helmet Facebook profiles are documented in this article. These White Helmets have praised suicide bombers, posted photos of Bin Laden and of an ISIS flag. Bin Laden, he was a CIA asset, okay? Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. Evidence here is so overwhelming that it becomes comical. The White Helmets featured in this article have shown support of the following groups. 1. Jibhat al-Nusra, Syrian al-Qaeda branch. 2. Jund al-Qaeda, al-Qaeda affiliate. 3. Ahrar al-Sham, Salafi jihadist. 4. Jais al-Islam, Salafi jihadist. 5. ISIS. All New World Order, right? Absolutely. The reports then contain photos of the White Helmet members and Facebook profiles as well. The relevant posts and statements made by these individuals that would incriminate them in terms of their support of terrorism and extremism. I highly encourage readers to access the report and have a look for themselves as to just what kind of sentiment is held by a much praised White Helmet terrorist. And there's additional information here as well. And you can see this for yourself, my friends. I think it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I just find this really hilarious. You know what, man? I question these clowns as well. And they are being stripped naked, man. They're all wearing no clothes. Remember, they're bend over bobs to the New World Order. They're their Uncle Toms, their Pawns, their Angel Mamas, etc. That's one thing that makes me laugh. But you know what? Read these articles, get a big kick out of it. I've read them, and I'm going to have to examine it a little bit more. But I just see it firsthand. It's right in your faces. Especially with that flag. Al-Qaeda flag or ISIS flag with the golden fringes around the flag. New World Order approved. Alright? So, look it up. Trust me, it is interesting. And last but not least, I know this is like it's pretty quick here if I'm correct, right? Yeah, not too bad. And it came out a couple of days ago by Bob Livingston. And alerts, good stuff, man. Published by Personal Liberty Media Group. Very free-thinking individuals. This is written by Brandon Smith. Is the left self-destructing, or something else going on? The temptation to revel in the implosion of the extreme political left is high and is understandable. I could go through a long list of insane offenses by a cultural Marxist cult of the Church of Social Justice. But I think this latest example summarizes the problem nicely. In this video, teaching assistant Lindsay Shepard at Wilfrid Laurier University in Canada is reprimanded and browbeaten by 2 professors for daring to commit the heresy of showing her students both sides of the debate over transgenderism and pronoun politics. The zealotry on display here by these professors is indicated of a deep-rooted cancer within the left. Shepard was not attempting to troll her class with misinformation or subtly manipulate them with propaganda. She wasn't seeking to pressure them to support either viewpoint. She was not violating anyone's private property rights to assail them with her arguments. Either her only goal was to show people in the public sphere that there are in fact at least 2 opposing viewpoints on the issue in question, but in the cult it is unacceptable to acknowledge that there are different ways of thinking from the prevailing doctrine. Others' belief and evidence must be filtered out completely. Otherwise, devout members of the cult may be faced with uncertainty. Yes, I'm right by a bridge. That's what you hear that. If an ideological system is so fragile that it cannot tolerate the slightest hint of legitimate counter-evidence, that something is very wrong with that system. If that system is incapable of arguing its merits, using the facts, and instead relies on argument of how dare you. The only things that could possibly keep it alive are threats of force and terror. Conscription. Decades ago, it was the Christian right that was often attacked as to being puritanical and theocratic in its attempts to not only control politics and legislation, but to also control the public mindset. They were not satisfied by merely dictating the laws. They wanted individual people to believe the way they believe, or at least act like it for the sake of conformity. This caused a considerable backlash from general populace, and over time the image of the rest of Christianity suffered because of the overreach of an aggressive and often self-contradicting and hypocritical contingent. Like I said, you got people who are statists. I call them Christian statists. That is a no-no, okay? And I call these people out as well. So I will continue on here. The social justice cult is running into the same conundrum today. The backlash is reaching epic proportions, and the term SJW is becoming a household joke. When only a year ago, most people had no clue that SJW was. All they knew was the political correctness was furiously taking over Hollywood, the internet, politics, etc. Most people do not like zealots, no matter what side of the political spectrum they claim to come from. And whenever zealotry poisons a social movement and causes it to violate non-aggression principle, there's always a reaction in the other direction from the citizenry. You cannot force people to believe what you believe, to think the way you think, or to speak the way you want them to speak. The laws of social physics, at least partially explain the current collapse of the left. However, I believe there's another underlying agenda taking place here, and is working in the detriment of all people, regardless of their political affiliation. In my article, Order Out of Chaos, the defeat of the left comes with the cost. Published just after Donald Trump's election win, I warn of potential danger that the left is being exploited by the establishment as a sacrificial appendage, a tool used to push conservatives to their own extremes and their own zealotry, meaning conservatives can be manipulated into embracing government power and totalitarianism in order to crush the zealotry of the cultural Marxists. Essentially, we can become monsters in order to defeat monsters. The next stage in this theater of the fourth generation warfare would be for the left to hit rock bottom and then rise again from the ashes as something new and entirely more dangerous. I would note that the tidal wave of mainstream media reports of sexual deviance and misconduct on the part of celebrities and politicians has been composed primarily of people on the left. Celebrity icons that are longtime representatives of the Democratic Party and money and support. I find it interesting also that many of these celebrities are people who attacked Donald Trump for his rather minor recorded discussion of sexual activity, the same recording as the mainstream media used to admonish him as acting to rapists. Whether or not the accused people are guilty remains to be seen. I am the one to take the court public opinion very seriously. That said, I wonder why that there has not been more accusations against Republican icons recently. I mean, Republican figures have certainly not been strained in sexual misconduct in the past, so why are the vast majority of pariahs being exposed today, including Harvey Weinstein, major Democratic players? My theory is that the establishment and the controlled media are being very selective in their targets and are going after many leftists who represents the low-hanging fruit. By why? As mentioned above, the extreme left must hit rock bottom and mutate into something else. They must be molded into something even more extreme. The social cult must be pressured into doubling down. The people who supported attacks on Trump over his sexual commentary now look like idiots because some of their favorite Hollywood idols are being exposed as allegedly much worse than their behavior. Well, what will their response be? I wonder, admit they were wrong, or become even more zealous in their political correctness. The obvious fraudulent, completely fabricated Russiagate issue is disintegrating. Contrary to what many conservatives and liberty movement analysts assume, this piece of propaganda was not meant to take down Trump, not in the slightest. In fact, it was meant to help radicalize the left, to make them more aggressive and violent, to give them a false hope that there is a way to get rid of Trump without waiting for another election. That hope is being taken away from them as Russiagate fumbles. The people who blindly support the Russiagate narrative now look like idiots. What will their response be? I wonder, will it be to admit they were wrong, or they will become even more angry and violent? The U.S. government is ready to help this narrative along. The FBI, the DHS officially classified Antifa activities as domestic terrorist violence back in September. And according to Edward Klein, who was publishing FBI documentation on leftist groups in his book, the government is also asserting that leftists have been traveling to Europe to meet with Al-Qaeda and ISIS representatives, apparently to form ties who said organizations and to learn terrorist skill sets. There's a video on here too on YouTube, and you can see that as well. FBI warns of coming left-wing violence. Do I believe this to be true? No, not really. This kind of propaganda reminds me quite a bit of the propaganda used against patriot groups over the last decade, including some of the suitable insinuations that right-wing extremists will work with Al-Qaeda and form an alliance, which is, of course, absurd because right-wingers are primarily adamant of opposing tyranny inherent in Islam. The claim being more believable in case of cultural Marxists, but still unlikely. What is more likely, and what I have been warning about since before Trump's election, is that there will be terror attacks in the name of leftist ideologies, but that these attacks will be, for the most part, be initiated by the establishment, just as the establishment funded and trained Al-Qaeda and ISIS and then set them loose to create havoc. And just as the establishment has engineered false flag attacks that were automatically blamed on the designated boogeyman, it now appears to be the extreme left turns. The left is plummeting into the depths of embarrassment and despair. As Trump's first term goes forward, these feelings are probably only going faster. Civil unrest and rioting are inevitable, but the greater threat is issuing of Gladio-style terror that's obviously being prepared. I've been saying that for a long time. Look what happened to Vegas. I was convinced Vegas was an Operation Gladio move. But I'll continue on. The narrative is being carefully set, and at this point, conservatives are all too happy to believe that the left is capable of almost anything. With the madness they have displayed so far, why wouldn't we think the worst of them? Again, the danger is that when this begins to happen in great frequency, conservatives respond by acting against their own ideas of limited government and individual liberty. When terror attacks are blamed on the left, how will we react? Will we question the validity of the narrative? Will we apply suspicion to the Trump administration, which has only increased the size of the swamp since its inception? We will seek out solutions to the problem by staying true to the Constitution and without turning to state power? Or will we embrace the narrative, embrace the Trump administration without question, throw our full weight behind government power, and let's say stomp lefty faces into the dirt? I hope this will not be the outcome, because if it is, then the last vestige of liberty in America are doomed. Hating the left is justifiable in our era, but abandoning our principles is not. Well, you can't argue about that. This is why I said this on my past episode, and said to many others. Both political parties, major political parties, Democrats and Republicans, are in turmoil. The corrupt are being exposed. They're stripped naked, wearing barrels. I say that out of dignity. You gotta be careful, friends. When one tyrant falls, no one will rise, etc. Always avoid these synthetic groups. The resistance. Black Lives Matter and Antifa. I'm not here crucifying people who are in them, rank and file. It's just you got people out there are just like drones. They're like ones. Hey, I got these people by the crotch. Unite the right, etc. Just giving you guys a clear example. And the fact is, I like when you put that Gladio style attack. Just look up my page, my episode, Gladioed in Las Vegas, question mark. I do have that links on there as well, pertaining to Operation Gladio. So stay vigilant, my friends. Say yes to freedom, no to tyranny, and death to the new world. Alright, my friends, that is it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you're setting something that's interesting you may want to check out, whatever you do, please address the correspondence with decorum. You keep me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Scene.life. Am I the only one thinking that I have an issue with that account? But it looks like Scene.life has been a problem. You know, so I gotta, find out what the hell's going on with it. Minds.com, FutureNet.club, Patreon.com/LookALook3 with 3 eyes. If you're going to be a donor, supporter, it'd be awesome. You can hit me on Gab, gab.ai. Furthermore, you can email me at LookALook3@gmail.com, or the ones who are encrypted, LookALook03@protonmail.com. Okay, my friends, that's all for now. Once again, thank you for your time. But always remember that demoniac resistance is helpful to the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.